I'm Sureya Leonara. I'm a sex and relationship coach, and today I want to talk about how you can have your cake and eat it too when it comes to masturbation. So, a lot of people that I work with, particularly men, have this experience where they want to masturbate, they have this sexual energy that just needs to move through, they need to get it out, but there's something that feels really unfulfilling or depleting about masturbation, particularly when they watch porn and masturbate. So afterwards, they might feel exhausted or lonely or empty or why did I do that kind of thing. But it becomes this thing that they don't know how to deal with because we have this sexual energy that wants to move. So there's actually a really profound difference between mindless masturbation and mindful masturbation. And I'm a huge proponent of self-pleasure. So I know there's a lot of no FAP movements going around and like things that are super against masturbation. And that's not actually the side of this that I'm on. I really encourage and support self-pleasure because our sexual energy has to move. It needs to flow and express. Otherwise, it becomes stagnant, repressed. It can self-implode. It can turn into frustration, even illness. And so we really want to let it move. But unfortunately, most of us haven't been given a way to move this sexual energy if we don't have a partner, or even if we do have a partner. Self-pleasure is really important even when we do have a partner. But most of us haven't been given a way to move this sexual energy in a healthy way. And particularly for men, it can feel like this thing that just needs to get out of their system. And women can experience this too. But I see this a lot with men, having this really fiery sexual energy. So I want to talk about today how masturbation can actually be a really nourishing, revitalizing, fulfilling practice, a way that you can connect with yourself and actually feel energized and rejuvenated after, rather than depleted. And it can actually be really beneficial for your health. So first, I want to start by talking about why porn can be really problematic to this purpose. And this is from a physiological standpoint rather than a moralistic standpoint. So there's a few things that are problematic about porn. The first one being that it floods your brain with dopamine, making you think that you've already achieved the reward that you're after. And so there's a few reasons that this is problematic. One is that it creates this addiction within your brain where you can just push a button and have that instant gratification. This can become really addictive, just like anything else. And it can really decrease your confidence because you don't have that same drive to actually go connect with a human being to meet your sexual needs. There's just this whole world on a screen that you can have it all at your fingertips. But there's a lot of negative effects that this has on your sexual performance and your physiology. So it can create a really high tolerance to where the same thing that got you off before doesn't get you off anymore. So you kind of need to go more extreme into harder and harder porn and novelty and different things to get you turned on. This is really problematic when you're connecting with a real human being, because if you've become addicted to novelty, and maybe getting to see all kinds of different scenes on a screen within a very short period of time, it can be really hard for the mind to focus and be present on one person, or multiple if you have multiple lovers. But just that, like, training the brain to have so many things pulling at its attention is really problematic. And we see this in our modern world in so many ways. There's so many things pulling on our attention that really diminish our attention span and our ability to stay present. So with this dopamine blast, the brain becomes dependent on this and gets really lazy actually, because it feels like you don't need to go work to create that connection. So it actually diminishes your drive and your confidence. And this dopamine flooding, it can't sustain itself. It's actually really depleting to your system. The other reason it's really depleting is because when you ejaculate, you are actually releasing an enormous amount of energy. And I'm not going to get into this so much in this video. I'm going to talk about it later, so definitely stay tuned for that. But essentially, one ejaculation is enough to populate all of Los Angeles. That's really crazy if you take a moment to think about it. It's an enormous amount of life force. Your organs are pouring forth their best energy in order to create new life, because that's what your body thinks that you're trying to do, which obviously that's not usually the case, especially when you're masturbating. And so there's actually a way that you can conserve this energy rather than spilling this out of your body. And we're going to talk about that at a later time. But in terms of porn being depleting and masturbation being depleting, it has to do with this loss of vitality, as well as these dopamine rushes that the body just can't sustain. So because of this novelty and this instant gratification, this can actually desensitize you to getting turned on by real human beings. And this has created a lot of premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction issues in men that are very young, especially in the younger generations, who have really developed their sexuality and their relationship to it in the context of porn. There has been a lot of issues in these younger generations with erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation. So this is part of the other problem, is that when you have this instant gratification, there's no reason for you to train your stamina or your ability to last long or to be able to please a lover. There's nothing that you have to do. You're just getting this energy out of your system. You're having this release, and it trains you to come really quickly. It trains it to be a really quick process where it's all about just focusing on that end goal and that release, rather than actually focusing on being present, prolonging pleasure, being able to please a lover, staying in your body rather than way up in your head. It's another thing it does, is it takes sexuality into a really mental context rather than in the body. But we have sex with our bodies, so we want to bring those back down into the body. We want sex to be an embodied experience, not something where we're off in our head fantasizing about something else while our lover is right here, or while we are right here. This goes for self-pleasure too. The mind is a really powerful sexual organ. So if you're really stuck in the head, it can actually push you over the edge much faster than you want to and make it really hard to stay present with your sexual energy and your body, and render you having very little control over your sexual energy. It doesn't help you to build patience or receptivity or really just going right for that climax. There's this instant gratification and this goal orientation. So ultimately, you're really conditioning yourself in a way that's not in your favor when it comes to a real lover. There's other ways this happens as well, particularly in the way that the porn industry does not understand or portray correctly female sexual energy. Female sexual energy actually operates very differently than masculine sexual energy, but we don't see this in porn. We also don't see a whole lot of intimacy usually. Often the hands are out of the way so that the camera can have the right view. The hands are a way that we really show love and tenderness and connection. And so it kind of gives us this very narrow view of what sex can be, and really falls short and just like barely scratches the surface of what is actually possible within the realm of sexuality. It also really objectifies women and doesn't actually display the majesty of their sexual energy. I can promise you, what a woman is capable of sexually, the energy she moves through her body, and what it means to connect with her from a place of reverence and presence is so much more beautiful than what you've seen in most of porn. And porn also shows us that hard and fast pounding is the way. There is a place for that sometimes. And if a woman's body is not fully ready for that, it can actually be really damaging to her pleasure and actually cause her pain or cause her to shut down. And it can also really desensitize you. There's a lot of magic to moving more slowly and tuning in with those more subtle layers of sensitivity. So these are just some of the reasons that porn is problematic. There's several others as well that I don't want to get into too much here, but ultimately taking a break from it, and you can decide to go back to it later if you find that that's actually what's really beneficial to you. There's no judgment about it. This is more a matter of highlighting what can be really problematic and causing you problems in your sex life that you're not aware of. But what I really like to suggest is being able to self-pleasure without porn. And not just without porn, but in a mindful intentional way. So the difference between mindless masturbation and mindful masturbation is mindless is like, there's this energy I got to get out of my system, or I'm trying to distract myself from doing something, or I'm bored, or there's this feeling I'm avoiding. Maybe I feel lonely. Maybe I'm feeling really bad about myself and I just want this dopamine blast. Any of these things are going to lead to disconnected, mindless masturbation, where there's not really a genuine, fulfilling why behind why you're doing it. And you're probably not going to feel so good after doing it. Now, if it's mindful, there's an intention behind it. There's presence. There's focus. You're in your body. You're working with your energy in a way that you're developing a conversation, a relationship, communication with your sexual energy so that you can learn to understand it on a more intimate level. You can learn to work with it and circulate it and have more control over how you have sex with someone, over how that energy shows up, so that it's not this erratic or elusive thing, but rather you know that energy very intimately and you know how to work with it. So it's really the difference between driving a high power car without ever having learned how to drive and becoming very intimately acquainted with that car and really knowing how to navigate these realms. So with a mindful masturbation practice, you're bringing pleasure throughout your whole body. You're revitalizing your system. You feel really good after. You feel connected to yourself. And it's not just this like compulsive, gotta get it out of my system, but it's actually keeping that vitality within and circulating it, and moving it in a really beautiful way. So I hope this was helpful for you. There's so much more I have to say about this that I can't fit into one video. If you want to know the how behind mindful masturbation, I have an amazing course called Vital C0ckfidence. It's a course for men where we get into everything I just talked about and so much more. So we really dive into cultivating confidence both in and out of the bedroom and learning how they really support each other, and how when you're confident in one realm, you feel confident in the other. We get really deep into learning to love your cock, learning to love what you're working with, and how to really work with what you have, no matter your size, shape, color, any of that. Really learning how to work with your specific makeup to have the most amazing sex life that you're capable of, both with yourself and with others. We dive into learning how to work with this sexual energy, how to overcome insecurities, how to feel really attractive in your authentic expression of masculinity, whatever that looks like for you, how to cultivate a sense of mission and purpose in the world, and really just how to penetrate your life in the way that you want to penetrate your lover. Having those two things really support each other and be reflections of each other. There's so much we get into in this course that I can't list it all here. So definitely check out the link to learn more about it. And if you want to join, we'd absolutely love to have you. The doors do close soon, so click the link now. And if you're ready to totally change the way you relate to your sexual energy and feel completely empowered and confident and revitalized and alive, then definitely make the call. You deserve this, and so do your lovers. I'll see you there. Click the link below. Again, I'm Sureya Leonara, a sex and relationship coach, and I look forward to helping you unleash your uninhibited brilliance.